Hey guys, welcome to CampK12 Talks. This is actually the 12th episode. This is the 12th episode, so we're celebrating our 1 year anniversary of this web series and podcast. And for the last 12 months, we've had for every single month a new guest joining us, someone who started coding at a young age and went on to do amazing things in big tech, in startup space, in one of these spaces, but always building something of their own. And for our 12th episode today, I'd like to introduce you to Kanav. And Kanav, I'll ask you to speak in just a moment. Let me give them a brief background into who you are and into what CampK12 Talks is for those that are joining the first time. So guys, our guest today is someone who grew up in India, like many of you. You guys are in India right now. And Kanav grew up in India, in Chandigarh, and his life took him to many different parts of the world. He ended up doing his schooling in the early days in India and then moving to Singapore for the later part of his schooling, and then ended up in the United States where he studied at Berkeley. So for those of you in the US, in California, you might have heard about a university and a college, UC Berkeley, one of the best places to study computer science. So kind of studied there. And then his life took him to various big tech companies like Amazon and Microsoft, where he stayed for over 3 years, and then decided to leave Microsoft to build his own companies. And today he is the engineering head at a startup that many of you would have heard about called Urban Company or Urban Clap. How many of you have heard of Urban Clap? Raise your hand if you have. I'm sure your parents would have heard about it if you haven't heard about it. Nice. Good. So he is the engineering head at that company. And he's here to share his story with us. Actually, raise your hand if this is your first time being part of this web series, CampK12 Talks. Yep. Raise your hand if this is your first CampK12 Talk. Okay. So let me just introduce what we do here. My name is Anshul. I am the founder and CEO of CampK12. And so CampK12 is a global online school. And you guys know this. We teach coding and other essential 21st century skills to young kids like all of you all across the globe. And every month we gather here to celebrate creation and to hear from industry experts from different tech companies and startups about what it was like to build and code as a young kid and how that really changed their life, how that skill really changed their life. So this is our 12th episode, guys. Welcome to the 1 year anniversary episode of CampK12 Talks. Excited to have you guys here. We will structure this as about 40 minutes, 45 minutes of me asking our guest questions. And then at the end, all of you will have a chance to ask our guest Kanav some questions. All right, so let's get started. The only rule here is keep your videos on because it allows our guest to see you. It allows me to see you. So all of you who have your webcams off, please turn them on. That would help us have a more interactive session. And then we will get started. So Kanav, can I ask you to unmute yourself and just say hi? Hey,
hi,
what's
Anshul.
up?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. And it's great to see faces of kids like this early in the morning. And it seems like, everyone is super excited and super fresh. And there's a lot of folks who actually came in for this call. So yeah, super excited to, I think, talk about it. This is the first time I'm actually addressing a group of kids. So it's a first for me also. So I'm also really nervous and excited. Yeah.
No, they're very friendly kids, and it's our pleasure to be able to host you here. And thank you for making time. Hey guys, from the CampK12 side, can we give them a proper CampK12 welcome with our clap, please, with a round of applause? Welcome to our guest, Kanav. Nice. So Kanav, I think the reason so many people have showed up on a Sunday morning is they know that this talk is about sports and about coding, which are probably two things that they love. How many of you guys play sports? Raise your hand if you guys play sports. Raise your hand if you guys play sports, any sport. Can you guys message on the side which sport you guys play? Everybody message on the side. Which is your favorite sport to play? All right. There we are. Pretty wide range. And I'm sure our guest plays many of these. All right. And how many of you guys, if you guys code, tell me how many apps you guys have made. On the coding side, tell me how many apps you guys have made. Apps or websites or games. Number of websites or games you guys have made. All right. Wow. People have made 11 apps. Nice. 2 games, 15 games, 20. Some people made over 20 games. Awesome. Awesome. You guys are mostly in grade 5 to grade 7 from what I remember, and you guys have already made over 10 apps and games. So we're going to talk about both sports and coding today because our guest kind of had a really strong relationship with both of these hobbies as he was growing up. So kind of let's dig in. We'd love to. I've obviously told the group about your past, but would love to rewind the clock to the days in which you were in school. So give us a sense of what sports you used to play, or give us a sense of just your athlete journey and in school, and then we'll talk about your coding journey. So over
Sounds
to
good.
you. Go back
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah. Sounds good. So I mean, usually when you're growing up, there's a park right next to, where you live, and everyone gathers and plays some level of football and cricket. And that used to always happen. But I think the trajectory changed when I was in sixth class. So in sixth class, my mom specifically took me, there's a sport, actually not a lot of people have mentioned it. But I don't know, has anyone done skating here? Skating on, roller skates. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So my mom, and this was a huge thing where I grew up from, which is Chandigarh. It is very, very popular over there. So my mom used to take me to these classes, which was at 6 p.m. It used to be hot, and every day you go there, and it was a proper coach. So this was the first time I actually had some level of like a proper training around it. So there used to be this thing where you had to keep skating for 30 minutes. You had to keep your back like straight and bent. You had to learn how to speed skate, how to brake, how to cross over people. Then I started learning hockey, skating hockey. I think we reached district level. I represented my district in state level competitions and stuff. But I think this was the first time I realized that there's a lot of discipline which you actually learn from sports. There's a lot of, I think you have to pay a lot of hard work. While it's all fun, but if you really want to get good at it, you have to kind of stay very true and disciplined to the sport. That's the time I also started swimming, which was also very organized. So that's also a sport. You keep pushing yourself, you keep fighting. There's a lot of competition within how to actually get better and get faster at it. And I think that's where kind of my sports journey started. And I think it kept going. After that, when I moved to Singapore, we played a lot of football there. So I'm a huge football fan. So you can see I'm a Manchester United fan also. So I love watching, love playing football. In fact, a fun story here. How many of you guys know Harsha Bogle? You guys know Harsha Bogle? The sports commentator, the cricket commentator? Yes. Yeah. So very fun story. So I was a lot into quizzing, right? And I really like sports. So in 10th class, there used to be this, when I was in 10th grade, there was this ESPN sports quiz show. So I actually represented my school and I was on TV on an episode. We reached the North Zone semifinals and he was a quiz master.
That's cool.
And that was also really good because I got to, marry sports and something very nerdy as quizzing, which I also used to like. And that actually took me quite far away there. And since then, like, I think I've always liked sports a lot. Yeah, it's always been a healthy outlet. In fact, yesterday itself, I played tennis. Today morning, I was supposed to play football, which did not happen, but yeah.
Was it because of this it didn't happen?
No, it was a little bit too early. I think
Right.
we had to get a quorum of like 12 people and it was at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
got
exactly.
like 8 people.
Exactly. It's a little
So, yeah.
tricky. That's a little tricky. So thank you for telling us a bit of the sports journey. I completely see what you're saying about the discipline it teaches you. I think there's also a lot of competitive drive that it teaches you,
Yeah.
right? How to be a part of a competitive environment and come out strong, and to have just the guts to keep on going when you're down. And I think that's a life skill. Let's talk a bit about your coding journey. When did you start? When did you start coding?
Yeah. So at that time when we were doing coding, I did not even realize it was coding. So I'll give you paint you a picture. So now computers are very rampant, right? Like all of you guys have computer with you at your home. That's why you're joining through the Zoom call. But in my time, which was, I went to school. So I would have done my first grade in 1993, if I'm not wrong. And I would have done my 10th in 2003. So that's the area, that's the age which I'm living in. So we did not, like, I never owned a personal computer till I reached college. So till I reached Berkeley, I never had a personal computer of my own. Um, and in my school, we had a computer lab, right? Now, let me tell you like what that lab looked like. Okay. So it was almost like a temple, right? Because it was the only air conditioned room in the whole school. So because computers, they get heated really fast at that time. So you had to keep them in an air conditioned room. When you had to enter them, you had to enter by removing your shoes outside. So it was almost like a temple, because at that time people were very scared. There'll be dust particles flowing into the computers. They're and it was very pricey, also very expensive at that time. So anyways, in second class, and I remember this very vividly. I don't remember anything from second class. I just remember this one teacher. We had this computer, time, like schedule. What do you call that? Computer class. And the teacher came in. I remember these two things. So the teacher said, we have this zoo, and there is a turtle missing over there. Okay. And it has come inside a computer, and you can instruct it. And I was like, what a weird way to tell a story, right? And at that time, that language, I don't know if many of you guys know about it, but the language was called Logo, Logo. Has anyone actually worked with Logo? It's like a turtle moving. Oh, all of you guys, awesome! I really like it. Sometimes I still try to play with it, even right now. But anyways, so I found this, and you can instruct this turtle to do, to draw lines, to move around, etc., etc. So that was awesome. And then there's another thing which I really remember from second class, right? Which changed how I thought about coding or computers. So my teacher wrote a line, which was repeat 360, FD1, RT1. I still remember it. And does anyone want to take a guess what happens when you put that line in Logo? Advait, you can write it. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of smart guys here. Yes. Yeah, you can type it. It's okay.
You guys can type what the answer is.
Yeah. So repeat 360, FD1, RT1. Yeah. So I think some of you guys, yes, exactly. So it drew a circle, and it just blew my mind. Like, how can just a very simple line, like line of code, make a circle happen? At that time, I did not even know about mathematics or angles, 360 degrees, like none of that. Right. But it was just amazing to see that. And that left a very, I think I still remember this really fondly. So in fifth class, at that time we did basic, and basic is very tough. I don't know. Has anyone actually learned basic here? Okay. There's a lot of eyes. Yes. So basic is an amazing language. It actually, if you know basic, it has all the structures in place for any of the advanced languages which I work with right now. It's as complex as it is, and you can do amazing things with it. And I remember in fifth class, I did a project where you could, it was sort of a science experiment which you draw. And at that time, Kaun Banega Crorepati was very, very famous at that time. So I did this 20 questionnaire game. You keep answering and you keep winning prizes. And all of this was done on basic itself. And like the thing which happened with this was like both of these instances, I felt like computer science or like this the fact that you can instruct a computer to do something is amazing, because then you can visualize what you want to do, and you can make it happen. So that part was, I think, super good. Unfortunately, after that in my school, there was no, like, I never did any coding. There was never any computer class, but I think I started fairly early in second and fifth grade. But unlike a lot of you guys who are very much exposed to it, that was my initial journey in coding. Yeah.
I think a lot of kids identify with what you're saying. I'm surprised that so many of them are still learning the little turtle.
Yes, it's amazing.
Very impressive, and they were able to guess they were able to guess what you what you were asking in the line of code. So you started coding in grade 2. You kept coding through grade 5 and then through high school, and you started playing sports in what grade? What grade was that?
So I started playing sports early, but I would say the organized version of sports I
Yeah.
started playing in fifth and sixth. So that's
Yeah.
when
That was
I
a
went
huge.
regularly, fifth and sixth. That's when I regularly went for skating and for
Okay.
swimming. And I think that is what I would call like actually playing
That-
sports, because before that it is just having fun. You go into park, you
yeah,
play
yeah.
with people, that's
Makes
fine. But when you actually start learning through a sport, I think that's
Yep. So you were about the
different ball.
same age as the kids
Yeah,
in this call when you started playing organized sports, and a little younger when you started
Mhm.
coding. Guys, when we do Camp Kid talks, we often ask our guests about the history here and what they were doing in school days, and we always find that
Mhm.
it's they often start these hobbies at a young age. And so all of you who are a part of this community at Camp K12 as young coders and creators, I think you guys are getting a really nice gift, which is this gift of being able to code, to be able to create, and
Yeah.
you're getting it at a young age. And you're about to hear from Kanav how it changed his life. But one thing I've seen is after now having 12 guests, one thing that's common across all of them is start early and keep building and build amazing things often, and you're going to build habits that change your life. So let's talk about Kanav's life, and let's understand how these two hobbies of coding and skating and the competitive instinct it built in him took him from India to Singapore. Because as I understand it, kind of your last 2 years of
Yeah.
school, 11th and 12th, were in fact not done in India because
Yeah.
you got a scholarship. So how did you tell us about that journey from India to Singapore? What was that
Yeah.
scholarship that you got? Uh,
Mhm.
how did that happen?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why Singapore? Like, just give us some
Mhm.
context for all the kids who might be considering, and this is for all the kids who right now are in India and might be considering studying abroad.
Mhm.
Whether you're
Yeah.
interested in studying abroad in the UK, in Singapore, in the US, or anywhere else, I would love for you to hear from kind of how his journey happened from Chandigarh, where he was prior to this, to the rest of the world. So over
Yeah.
to you.
So it's a fun story. So there was a scholarship which is called the Singapore Airlines Scholarship. So it's given to, at my time, it used to be given to about 40 students all over India. Um, and their photos used to come into newspaper every year. So I'd been following this from fifth and sixth grade. My mom would always show me, look at these guys who managed to clear this scholarship, and they went to Singapore. It was like a huge thing in my mind. But anyways, after 10th, I started I did not have any plans of studying abroad as per se, but this scholarship was always in the back of my mind because it's something which had been built up. Like my mom always used to show me photos of these people who cleared it, and some of my seniors who I thought were really smart actually managed to get there. So after 10th, I started the usual, I don't know if any of you guys are after 10th applying to do it, the usual IIT coaching. So I went into tuitions and all that stuff. But then I managed to clear this whole this scholarship, and the process was very very interesting. And like because it was not too much about academics, it was a little bit about everything. So you had to submit a resume first at 10th class. So you have to submit a resume. You not only talk about academics, you talk about your whole personality, what other things which you do. Here's where sports also helped me a lot, because it's not just, they want people who are a little bit more all-rounded and good at multiple things. So that helped me first clear the initial cut. Then then you have to go to Delhi in one place and do this written exam, which was a 3-hour written exam over mathematics, a little bit of analytics, like a little bit of logical questioning, science. So you have to do that, and then folks who clear it then have to go for a face-to-face interview with folks from this panel. And that's when, once again, they test out your personality. They see whether you can actually live abroad alone. They see, are you just into sports or are you just into academics? Like how much? And all of this, like the sports which I played helped me get there, and it's only given to like 40 students at that time. So when I got it, I think at that time it was a huge move. That was the first time I was actually leaving home. But yeah, it was too good to actually say no to it. So my 11th and 12th, then I actually left India to do my schooling in Singapore for 11th.
So Kanav, you never really planned this, right? You were perhaps going down the track of studying in the Indian education system in college, and then this happened because of all your I think your competitive instinct and your achievements in school. And guys, keep in mind that when you think about studying abroad, whether it's in Singapore or in the US, as Kanav is saying, they value that holistic, well-rounded development. And so all the sports he used to play, all the things he made with coding would have really helped him in this journey, and it opened these doors to be able to study outside, even in school days. So now let's fast forward to those 2 years in Singapore, and tell us about your time over there. What was the academic life like? What was the overall life outside of school like? Paint the picture for those of us who have not been in Singapore, and certainly I don't think any of us would have been students in Singapore.
Yeah, so there are a few things, like it's the first time, like I'm actually, like imagine like I'm like your age, and this is the first time I actually get to live outside of home. So I was not in a boarding school or something. So that was a huge change. So imagine now you are spending all of your life like in a boarding school. You have to eat whatever is served to you. So you have I think you get a lot of discipline and a lot of independence once. So that was a huge shift. I think, first of all, just living outside home in a different country, that was a huge shift. But apart from that, the Singapore education system is very, very holistic. So they want you to be good at sports. They want you to be good at co-curricular activities. They want you to have a little bit of charity and empathy for the whole society. They also want you to be good at academics. And that way, I think it's very, very competitive, but it's in a good way because it actually hones your personality in all of these aspects. So just to give you an idea, like I was not only doing like, okay, sport, I think academics was fine, but even I got to like represent, well, I was in top 30 in Singapore in all these 3 Olympiads: math, physics, and chemistry. So super, super nerdy that way, which I really like because you get really deep into when you actually look at Olympiad questions, you actually look at a question and then you go really, really deep and try to solve it. So that was really fun. I also got to do a little bit of computer programming there. So this is at that time, it was a very novelty thing. So IBM had a lab in Singapore, which was called high performance computing, which right now is fairly obvious and it's a big word, but fundamentally what it means is rather than having you writing code on one computer and you using one computer, why not use 50 computers? So if there's a big task you need to do, why can't you spread it across 50 computers and then do it faster? So that's what basically high performance computing was. So I had a research paper over there, and that was phenomenal. We actually won that competition. So this thing which we did, I was also part of Students' Council, which was very interesting. So we had to do some sort of co-curricular activity, and Students' Council was for our whole college. There was a group of 30 folks, which were like, you had to literally run for elections. So you had to campaign yourself. You had to tell why you're a good, why you would be a good person as part of the Students' Council. Anyone could come and ask you questions. And then you get to do a lot of things for the betterment of the school, organize a lot of things. That actually opened up a very different type of avenue. So yeah, I think with Singapore education, you kind of had to do everything a little bit. So you get a little bit good at everything. You could try a little bit of everything. So that also helps you know what you really want afterwards. And at that time, so that's basically what Singapore.
It sounds like this is how you knew that you wanted to go deeper in the technology space. You had some success here in technology competitions, as well as access to, like you said, some really inspiring places like the IBM R&D lab that you're describing with high
Yeah.
performance computing, and the overall culture you're describing of Singapore, it's quite similar to what I grew up in California. I did my schooling in California, and that well-rounded aspect you talk about, where people are judged not just for their grades on the report card, but for the work that they do outside
Yeah.
of their class, whether it be community service, as you said,
Yes.
or it be the athletics and hobbies, and having hobbies and doing things. It really helps, especially when you, for those of you thinking about college admissions, maybe those of you who are ninth grade and above, because before that, I
Yeah.
don't think you should think about college admissions. But for those of you thinking about where they want to go, the US college system, which Kanav was also a part of, because we'll talk about it now, but he went from Singapore to UC Berkeley, one of the best colleges here in the US. That transition is only possible if you demonstrate that you are someone who wants to give back to society and be a well-rounded individual and contributor, and it really helps with that process. And I grew up in that as well, so I can attest to that. So we've talked a bit about your Singapore years, where you were, it seems like, an academically very successful person. You were doing 3 Olympiads at a high level, which
I
I think is
loved
crazy.
math. I
I
loved
think it's
math and
crazy.
all the sciences.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was.
And doing sports and doing student council and doing all of this coding stuff as well. So talk a bit about, so let's fast forward. Let's go from Singapore to the US. You applied for US universities, you got admitted, and you went to UC Berkeley. I think a lot of people here don't know UC Berkeley. So first of all, tell us, what is UC Berkeley in your own words? Where is it? Paint the picture a little bit. And
Yeah.
I can tell you guys that it has a very top-notch computer science program. So if
Yeah.
you want to study CS, it's a good place to be, and it opens
Yeah.
a lot of doors. But just paint the picture for those that haven't
Yeah.
met UC Berkeley before.
Yeah. So actually, honestly, when I was growing up in India, for me at that time, IIT was my dream. But then things changed. I went to Singapore. Then I also realized, oh, people actually go to US for colleges. I didn't even know that. It's only when I went to Singapore, I saw some of my seniors going there. Then I was like, this is possible. So because I had, once again, a very all-rounded, as Anshul also said, very all-rounded experience in Singapore, I think that put me, and I did my SATs, that put me in a good place to apply to some of the top colleges in US. And out of all the colleges, the best one I thought, which I got in, was Berkeley. That's also the time, because I did multiple such things, I knew I wanted to do either math or computer science. And at that time, I felt computer science, I talked to some of my seniors, they said, if you're good at math, computer science is good because it's also fairly practical and you can actually start using it in professionally very, very soon. And it's a little bit more enterprising that way. So I knew at that point I wanted to do computer science. So got into Berkeley, reached Berkeley, once again, a huge culture change. So grown up in India, Singapore, and now suddenly I am time zones away. I have no family, no one I know in US remotely. So just landing there the first day, once again, it was a huge thing getting used to a different culture, different society. But Berkeley was amazing. I think there was a lot of folks from a lot of different regions in that one place, and everyone is doing something or the other, right? Either some people are very academically aligned, you see people who want to do history or political science or arts, and you get this whole mix of everyone where you learn from. But Berkeley computer science program was amazing. I remember I was very nervous because there was a lot of folks who had done a lot more coding than I had done, but it did not matter too much. I think there's a lot of basics which you learn in college itself. I remember the first class itself there was a huge lecture theater, which was amazing. There were 300 or 400 folks sitting there, and one of the best professors in the world is trying to teach you basics of computer science and how to write. At that time, the language we were learning was Scheme, how to write it in Scheme. And so it started from there. And after that, you learn a lot more not only the practical, the theory behind computer science. So how computers work, how like literally from the point where how when you write a coding, anything in instruction in your computer, like how does it actually go to the final chip, and then how does it run. I think it's important to know these basics also. And then you also learn a lot of top level stuff. So you learn how to build apps a little bit, you learn how to deal with databases. Right now a lot of cloud network is there, so you learn how to deal with AWS, like all of these things. So how to host your own website. So you learn very, very practical things also, and you learn very, very fundamental things which always stay true afterwards also. So I think it's in that way it was super good. It was also in San Francisco, like close to San Francisco, so Berkeley. So it's heart of Silicon Valley.
Right here, guys.
Yeah.
This right here where my
Yes.
background
Yes.
is
I used to
from.
live close to there.
Yeah,
So all the big tech companies are from there. So yeah, it was good in all of these ways.
Kanav, we would love to hear about what kinds of things you coded during this time.
Yeah. So I mean, there were obviously projects in school, which were in college, which were amazing. But I think, as I said, I realized very soon that this is an amazing avenue, right? Like it's, and I'm for some of you guys who have actually coded 15, 20 apps, you would realize you don't need anyone to tell you that this is what you need to do. Like if you have an idea in your mind, if you play another game, you kind of want to create that, you can just do it. All you need is just you and your computer, and anything is possible. So for example, and whenever I used to come back home from Berkeley, I used to spend like a month at home in vacation. Like first 5 days I would be like chilling, and then I finally get this urge, I need to do something, right? Like, and I would always have some sort of an idea. So I'll tell a couple of really funny stories. So the Singapore scholarship, I thought not a lot of people in India knew about it. So I wanted to like teach people about it, tell people about what life in Singapore is like. So I created this website at that time, and I uploaded like all the information. I also remembered like that question, the quiz, the written exam. So I uploaded, like I remember all the questions from it. So I actually said these are sample questions which I got in my time. I posted photos of my time in Singapore, all that stuff, and then it got really popular, that website. So I made that website, hosted it, and it became even more popular than the ministry government's the scholarship website. So, and a lot of people used to ask me questions about more. A lot of parents reached out to me. So that was really fun, and I did it in 10 or 20 days in a vacation. So next vacation, which I came back home for. So I'm huge into sports. So as you can see, I watch football a lot. So I used to love watching English Premier League. Like there are 10 matches that happen every week, and you love watching their highlights and the long highlights, right? Like 8-minute long highlights. So I used to go on YouTube and search for these videos every time. And then I'm like, why am I spending this time to search for it? It's so repetitive, right? Can I do something to solve for this for myself? So I created this sort of thing where you could just tell the schedule. If you tell the schedule beforehand, then it will automatically go to multiple video sites. So YouTube, at that time, there were a couple of others. It will look at the results, it would parse some results, and then select the top 4 or 5 videos for each match. And then I would just watch those because I know, so I don't have to go and search for it myself. And then later on, at that time, Facebook was coming up with their application. So I created an application on Facebook which just does this. So you could follow your team and you would get matches for your team. And it became really popular. So something which I solved for myself, I realized I could just make it for everyone. And that did really well at that time. And it was fun because I managed to combine something which I really like, sports, with coding, and I actually achieved something good. And this kept going on, like even in 2000, and like as late as like a few years back, I was coming home one day. So you guys probably might have used Uber. So there are a couple of them, Uber and Lyft. And what I realized in San Francisco is if you walk a little bit, you can get a very cheaper fare. So if you walk like 50 meters this way, the price can reduce by like in India, like 100, 200 rupees, or in US, like by like a few dollars, right? So I built this thing. I'm like, this is once again, I'm doing this myself. So I built this app where you could just tell where do you want to go to, and it'll automatically figure out the best place you need to walk to, where it will find a very cheap fare. And once again, I did this for myself, but then I later on made an app out of it, which became really popular also in US. But yeah, that's the thing which I'm trying to say is the whole part about coding, which I really like, is any idea which you have in your mind, you can actually make it happen. And then you just go down and like, it doesn't matter. Like you have to learn a lot of things to actually accomplish the idea, but it's possible, whatever you think.
Yeah. I think you're so right, Kanav. I fell in love with the same aspect of coding. Yeah. And it sounds like you realized pretty early on that you can use coding to solve problems in your own life.
Yeah.
And guys, that's a very powerful moment. When you realize that the skill you're learning in your Camp K-12 classes and in your school classes and others, when you realize that this can actually change your life, it can make your life more productive. In his case, he was doing something that he realized he had a repetitive task, which was searching for certain videos of sports teams that he followed. And he realized that he can automate that task with code. And I think that's a very powerful moment when you realize, like, I can make my life better. This is a problem I have and I can solve it with code, but also that I can share it with other people after that. I can actually put this search engine that I've created online for other people to use.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts. You know, you learn to code, you first build games, then you build apps, then you build other things. Then you realize that you can actually solve real world problems for yourself. Then you realize you can solve them for your mom and dad and your teachers and your brother and sister and other people. And then pretty soon you're solving problems for the world. And that's the journey of an entrepreneur and a founder. And those of you who, you know, learn this skill set, you guys will have the opportunity to not just work for big tech companies, which we're going to talk about now in Kanav's journey, because the next thing in his journey was, hey, let's go solve problems with some of the biggest companies out there like Amazon and Microsoft. But even after that, you will have opportunities to take this skill and apply it to build your own companies, to solve your own problems, to put things out there. And I think it all starts with that realization that with code, I can build something that solves my problem or someone else's problem, and people will use it and it'll make life better. I think it's very powerful. And it seems like you experienced that in your college years. So tell us a bit about the next step. You worked for Amazon, it seems like, and then you worked for Microsoft. So tell us a bit about that journey, and what did you work on at Amazon? What did you work on at Microsoft? What was it like to work at Amazon and Microsoft?
Yeah. So I had an internship in Amazon. And then I had which was in Seattle, which was really cool. This was still, I think I would say Amazon was fairly small at that time. So this is all the way back in 2006. Yep. And after that, I had an internship in Microsoft, and I ended up joining Microsoft full time. Honestly, the reason why I joined Microsoft is because everyone knows Microsoft. And in my mind, it was also this. Like, it's the pinnacle. Like, everyone who does computer science, they want to be part of Microsoft because it's the best company in the world. And the product which actually I worked in Microsoft was Microsoft Office. So I got to work on something which I believed everyone used.
I think you should ask to raise your hand if they've used. Ask them to raise your hand if they've used Microsoft.
Have you guys used Microsoft Office? So Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Yeah, all of you guys, right? Yes. So when I got the opportunity, so when Microsoft came to campus and they asked me, which team do you want to be a part of? And I was very sure. I said Microsoft Office because everyone uses Microsoft Office, and I get a chance to build something which everyone would use. So when I joined Microsoft, I think the culture is really cool. There's a lot of like-minded folks. Everything is taken care of for you. There are free drinks, there's free lunches. All of that part is, I think, really good. My office had I had 5 computers with me. So I had like 5 computers which I could run to do multiple things. Like, Office was huge. The code base for Office was huge. So it was fairly exciting in the starting. But honestly, like, afterwards you realize it's a very big company. So if you want to do things which, like, I was always in the mind of, like, if I have an idea, I want to make it happen. I want to change something. then it's a lot harder to do in big companies, I would say. And that's when I actually made the plunge. I said, I want to actually go to a smaller company, which not a lot of people would have heard of, but with less number of developers. And that's where I thought I could express myself a little bit more. I could change how things could be done. So I was actually a lot into gaming at that time. Has anyone played Warcraft or Dota? Oh, yes, there are some Dota fans. Are there? Yes, I see some. Awesome. So it's a very complicated game. I used to love playing this game. And because of that, I said, I want to join a gaming company. I want to join a company that actually makes games. It's called Pocket Games. They used to make games for iOS, so iPhone and stuff. And that's where I got the opportunity to work on a game from scratch. So all what was told to us is, go ahead, kind of make a game on dragons. And all dragons need to destroy stuff. So go make a game, it'll be a fun game. Like, okay. And from that to actually making like a full-fledged game, I borrowed a lot of elements from, for example, from Warcraft and Dota. So there are 3 types of heroes in Warcraft: Intel, Agility, Strength. There are 3 types of dragons in this game: Intel, Agility, Strength. Some of the first few spells I coded up, I borrowed from this game. And this is what I mean, right? Like you could express yourself and change. And that game is also like, it's called War Dragons. So do check it out if you want to, but it's still very, very popular. It has made more than 300 million US dollars till now in revenue.
Wow.
And yeah, it's still very, very popular. And that's
Kanav, I think this is the first time we've had a guest that's actually built games professionally. So kids, how many of you guys have built games in your classes at Camp? Raise your hand if you built games in your coding classes. Yeah, should be many of you, right? The whole curriculum is based on building games. And I think what you're hearing from Kanav is he went and studied computer science at one of the best colleges in the world. Then he went and worked at Amazon and Microsoft. And then he left those companies to then build games professionally. So believe it or not, the skill set in a world where people play games is actually a real job that you can do. You can actually build games professionally. We don't think about it. But I think Kanav's experience makes it really clear that you can do whatever you want with coding. You can build games for other people, and $300 million in revenue is an amazing number for a game, right? Imagine how much money you can rake in, also professionally speaking, as a game developer. So it is a real option, career option for you guys. I want you guys to just note that. Very inspiring. Yeah, keep going, Kanav.
Yeah, so I did that. After that, I believed I wanted to express myself even more. So the next stage after that, I tried to do a startup of my own itself. Won't tell like in detail what we tried to do, but simple as this, which we try to do is, imagine there's a place, you search for a movie, and you can get to see which of your friends have watched that movie and what do they think about it. If you want to buy a TV, you search for a TV and you find out which of your friends have what type of TV and what do they think about it. So that's the platform which you were trying to build. To spend a lot of energy also that. And once again, this is also something where like I had an idea that this is something I think the world needs, and ended up creating it. It did not work for other reasons, but I ended up creating it. And the back of it, it was all like, very, very solid technology, computer science, coding. So spent 2 years on that too. And after that, I decided to move to India, back to India. I believed, this was in 2016. I believe actually India has a lot of opportunities also. There's a lot of growth happening. There's a lot of things that are changing. There's so many apps that exist in India, which did not exist like 5-6 years ago. So that all has happened. Now it's become so used to it. Things like my company, Urban Clap, Zomato, even Flipkart, Amazon, like all of these guys have started existing in India, and all of them are tech companies. It's all run by developers and folks who know computer science behind the scenes. So I thought like India is going to be a great place for it. So that time I joined Urban Clap or Urban Company, and it was only like I think 1 year into existence. So I joined them very, very early, and once again got to build their app, got to build a lot of automation behind the scenes, a lot of cool things. We recently 1 year back, I think COVID and COVID is huge, right? So we wanted to ensure safety. So what we did was, like when a professional comes to door, he takes a photo, and then we are able to recognize the mask on the photo itself, and only then we let the person start the job. So we can actually look at that. So this is where I think technology really comes in and can solve things at an amazing level. And it's super interesting also that way. So yeah.
Very inspiring journey, and a lot of things I didn't know about your journey as well as you were sharing it. So thank you for sharing that. Guys, we're towards the end of the section where I ask kind of questions. I just have one more question for him, and then I'd like to open it up to you guys for you to ask questions. So start thinking about what question you want to ask, and if you want to ask questions, I want you to raise your hand. You can like not right now, but when I say raise your hand, you can physically raise your hand, and I'm gonna call on you based on who's physically raising their hand and has their video on. First those people, then we'll go to other people. Okay, so Kanav, I want to give you a chance to share a few closing remarks. You've talked us through this whole journey where you discovered the power of coding and the power of coding to build things that change the world. You worked at large tech companies. You left those large tech companies to build your own things, and then ultimately came back to India to join hands with a very early stage company and scaled it into a massive startup that a lot of families would know if their parents would know, even if they don't know it. Uh, I want you to just reflect for us on how did your journey learning sports at a young age and learning coding at a young age, how did that actually shape you if you look back in hindsight?
Whenever people ask me what do I really like, I just say I like two things. One is coding, and second is sports, and that has always been there with me through thick and thin. So sports, I think, holds a very special place in my heart. Not only just because it's super competitive, you learn a lot of skills, but see, I lived in 3 different countries. I moved across different cities. You come across people which you have not met. I was not the most extroverted person, but I realized whichever place you go in the world, everyone follows or plays some sport. So that's how you can actually build a lot of connections, etc. So when I was in US, I actually started playing American football. So and American football is an amazing sport. Like there's a lot of science behind it. Like I remember when I used to play that sport, we used to spend 1 hour in classroom studying it, and 1 hour actually playing it and practicing it. So I think so that part is very important. Like I felt was very important in sports. And second thing was, of course, like things like discipline, competitiveness. I think you pick up a lot of these teamwork. I think is very, very important. So when you play football, it's not too much about individual. It's actually how your team plays. So you learn all of these things, and these translate into your professional life also. And it's not separate. Like some of the most successful people I've seen, they would be folks who would be really good in couple of different things. So they would be good in sports also, and they would be really, really fit, and they'll also be really good at what they do in the job. And specifically for coding, I think what Anshul said, I think like when you realize that anything which you believe needs to happen is missing can happen through code. And it's just, well, I think that changes a lot of things. And I believe a lot of folks maybe call us, folks who code like a little bit, nerdy or a little bit sciencey, but I think there's a lot of creativity. I think it's actually very, very creative because you can actually achieve anything through code. So yeah.
Thanks, Kanav.
Name of my game is War Dragons. I like
it. War Dragons. All right. Let's actually jump into giving these guys a chance to ask questions. So I can see Ahan has been raising his hand for some time. So Ahan, I'm going to unmute you and then we'll go to Vamshi. Okay.
So I got a question for you because back in when you started Urban Company, I got actually 2 questions for you. When you started Urban Company, what was Urban Company's main purpose? Like, was it because Urban Company does multiple jobs? I've seen that in their ads. They do AC service, haircuts.
Yeah.
So what was urban company's main job before the pandemic?
Yeah. So great question. So it is all of the things which you mentioned. So urban company has always said we want to do wherever you need a person at home for any service, that's where urban company will come in. So we do uh, beauty services at home. So anyone who wants to use salon, who wants to get like some sort of a makeup done at home, we'll do that. For men, we especially do haircuts, facials. So my last haircut, if you like it, was also done through urban company. So guy came in like at my own home and then like, cut my hair and then cleaned everything afterwards. If anything is broken in your house, from plumbing to to anything in electricity, you gotta want to get everything fixed in furniture, or you want to paint your house, you have an AC that needs to be repaired or serviced. So all of that, I think urban company does. And we are right now not only in India. So we started obviously in India. We are actually live. We are actually operational in multiple countries also now. So we are live in UAE. We are live also in Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Singapore also, where we realize that the same need is missing there, and there needs to be someone who needs to fulfill that. So we try to do a little bit of everything.
So my second question is also like in multiple games nowadays, like for big game companies, I got a question for you. Back then I heard when you were like when it was your age, like kids like you used to like mess around with coding. Like they used to mess around with they build cars, see how two cars would crash, build destructible houses. And so what was your like main plan in like building your game? What was your main plan like in building a game? Was it going to be a football game? Or whether you were going to unite with somebody else and start building your own company and your own game?
Yeah. So great question. So honestly, I think right now, so in my time, I never owned a computer. So it was very, very expensive. I remember the first time I knew about internet, which was in 10th class. Like before that, I did not even have access to internet. So anytime you wanted to find anything, right now you guys go to Google. I used to go to a library to find that information. So it's very, very different from that way. But in terms of building a game, I think it was more about I like gaming, so I used to play Warcraft, and I thought, and I like coding, so I was like, why can't I join a company where I can do coding and I actually use coding to do something which I like, which is games. So that's how it actually started.
Awesome. Let's go to Vamshi. Vamshi, I'm giving you a chance to unmute. And then Anvesha, you have a question. It seems you can be next after that.
Yeah, actually, my query is that what is the difference between the Indian education system or Singapore or US? So I can choose the IIT or MIT or Harvard.
Got it. So I think the biggest difference, let me see if I can try to be diplomatically correct, but the biggest difference which I found out, I think the Indian education system focus a lot on sciences. So they focus on math, physics, chemistry, and you have to be really good at it. And if you're really good at it, you will become successful, right? Because IIT, if you look at it, they don't look at anything. You have to go for an exam. There's a math, physics, and chemistry thing which you have to do. If you score really high, you get there. But in Singapore, and I was also part of it, right? Like I did 6 months of 11th grade in India, and at that time I was only doing coaching, right? Like I only was going to tuitions. I was learning all of these things, and I was just spending all my time learning. But I think where Singapore and US are a little bit different is they make you a little bit more holistic. They kind of want you to. There's a lot more freedom, so there's a kind of want you to try out a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Even in Berkeley, for example, even though I was in computer science, I was asked to do things like, or not asked to things, but I could choose to do things like I studied a little bit of economics. I studied a little bit of Greek mythology, like these type of things, which I think make you more aware of everything. Plus, they actually shape your personality a little bit more. They encourage sports a little bit more. So I think in terms of all-rounded, it's good, but Indian education system is absolutely killer in terms of, if you just like math, physics, chemistry, you'll be the best in the world. I think if you do that. So there's a lot more focus on depth in these fields in India, but outside India, it's a lot more holistic, I would say.
All right, let's go to, where is she? Okay, I can't see her anymore. There was a gal and she's gone. So I'm going to go to someone else until then. I'm going to go to Kaushika. Kaushika, let's ask you to unmute yourself. And then Falguni, you're next. And guys, introduce yourselves by, hey, my name is, and I'm in grade this. So that kind of knows a little bit of the context of your life.
Sir, how can we learn coding easily in our daily life?
Kaushika, what grade are you in, Kaushika?
Yeah.
I am in 3rd grade.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, great. What do you know how to code in? Which do you know any language? Do you know any software which you normally right now use?
I know some languages that I know. Some languages.
Perfect. Okay. So the easiest way I think to learn coding and is to try not to learn it, right? Like now I'm going to ask you, Kaushika, what are you interested in? Like anything apart from
interested in coding.
Mm-hmm. But like apart from coding, is there anything which you're super interested in or want to do or have an idea in your mind?
No.
Okay, so this is what you do. Okay, you think about any idea, anything which you think is cool, anything which you have seen someone else do, which you think is very cool, and then you just set that as a goal that you need to make it happen in some way or the other. Once you do that, then you'll realize you learn automatically the things which are required to do that. So rather than just learning, set a goalpost for yourself, figure out anything cool. Like if you like a game, let's say you want to make something like a rock, paper, scissors, right? So you play against the computer, rock, paper, scissors, build that. And you realize, okay, I need to learn this, I need to learn that. Then you'll go out, figure out information. You'll talk to some of your instructors, how to make some things happen. And then you'll keep learning along the way. To me, that's the easiest way to learn it. So you figure out, and it's also very fun because at the end of it, you are making something which you can use. So that's the easiest way to learn coding, I think.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the question. All right, over to Falguni. Go for it. Falguni, introduce yourself.
Hi there. I'm Falguni Yadav. I'm in grade 6 and I have 2 questions. The first question is that if you had a great sciences and maths, so why didn't you be a scientist?
Great question. Okay, awesome. Do you have another question also? Or I'll answer this one first.
Okay.
So I really, really liked math and physics a lot. So I was into Olympiad, so I was super into it. In fact, some of the colleges I actually did apply for math also as a major. So I wanted to do math as a major. I think at that time I realized, in fact, one of my childhood dreams was to actually win a Nobel Prize in physics or math, like the version of Nobel Prize in math. That was my childhood dream. But I think after college, I realized when I did a little bit of coding, I realized you could just make things happen. And that's so much like exciting in some ways. When you choose a field like math or physics, I think you have to be really, really dedicated to that field. You have to spend a lot of time in research, etc. In fact, I did do math research in 11th and 12th. So in Singapore, I actually wrote a paper. I was actually looking at the math paper which I wrote. I don't understand it right now, so I don't know how I did it at that time. But I realized compared to doing research and versus actually building something, I realized I enjoyed building something a lot more. And the amazing thing is about computer science is it's very math based. It's still very, very logical. So I still get to use that side of my brain a lot in computer science, but to build stuff. So that part is, I think, super exciting for me. That's why I chose this.
Okay, and my second question is that, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my second question is that in which country, in Singapore or US, you grasp more things?
I think the right answer over there is, I think the person I am, I wouldn't be if I did not have all those experiences. So I think there are some goods about everything. For example, I think in India, I really, uh, because they focus a lot on math and physics and chemistry, like, and all of those sciences, I think that part was very good. So that's why I got really good with numbers. I loved math. And then when I went to Singapore, I think it opened my door in terms of being a little bit more holistic in terms of personality. So not only studies is important, a little bit of sports is important, a little bit of co-curricular activities is important, a little bit of charity is important, all of that. And then when I went to college in Berkeley, I that's the time I realized computer science is what I want to do full time in my life. This is something which I want to do forever in my profession. So I got to go really deep into computer science in college. I wouldn't say one is better than the other or anything. I think, but now I would say all of these places also offer everything. So for example, it's great to see so many of you guys right now doing coding. It's something which I did not get to do that much in my childhood, but it's awesome to see all of you guys being able to do that. So I believe, I think you try a little bit of everything. I think in India has that now completely open. Camp K-12 is great way to actually learn different types of skills. So you try a little bit of everything, and then you figure out what you really like and you do it. For me, it happened through countries, but it can definitely happen in the same place where you are.
Thank you, sir.
We have time for one more question. So raise your hand really tall if you have the last question. You're really confident you want it answered. All right. So I think we will go to Yajnesh. Yajnesh. All right. Over to you, Yajnesh.
My question is kind of like, I have always wondered if there's a gaming company who is making games, then how do they get like enough money to just separate salary for their people down, like laborers who are making games? So how do they get like that? Like, do they make games like in your company? You told you made some kind of dragon game, war dragons. So like, was it like Minecraft? Like if you go to Play Store and search Minecraft, it is like they are asking 600 rupees. So is it like that, or like, I don't understand how?
So most of the games.
What a smart question. He's asking about the business model.
I know. He's asking about how do games even make money.
Yeah. Yajnesh, what grade are you in?
I am in 6th grade. Like my ambition is to become a big businessman. So
big businessman.
Right. There you go.
Awesome. Yeah, you touched exactly the right question. I also thought games were all free, but that's not the case. Actually, games make a lot of money because everyone likes to play games, a little bit of games. So whether it's casual games, whether it's hardcore games. So any sort of game which you see, for example, if you have a PlayStation or Xbox, you're buying that game, right? Similarly, any apps you have, you either pay, like, for example, 600 rupees to download the app and then play it, or a lot of the apps are actually free. And what they do is they're free because they get you to start playing the game, and at different times to actually maybe play the game faster or to get an edge in the game, you can buy things in the game itself, and that's another way they make money.
Like it's like Crash Royale, like in Clash Royale.
Something like this, exactly. Crash Royale, Clash of Clans. So the games are free to download it, and then to actually move faster in the game. So you can play the game free, but to move things faster, you don't have to wait for, like, for example, the building to be constructed or things, etc. Or you can get more premium currency in the game to buy other stuff in the game itself. So all of those things is where these games monetize and get a lot of money. and it is crazy. There are people who spent $1,000 and $2,000 on a game because they really like it. It's a good time pass for them. It's an investment
Yeah,
for
I
them.
have seen
Yeah.
this Beaker's Lab. He spends lot of money.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of games which are very, for example, Candy Crush is very, very popular. It makes, on an average, it actually makes more than $1 million a day. That one game. So yeah, there's a lot of actually money in gaming. Even Warcraft, for that matter, also very, very popular, makes a lot of money. So yeah.
Awesome. Great question to end on. Very intelligent question. I would just like to now take a moment to thank our guest, Kanav, for being our guest today and for being the 12th guest completing out this full year of Camp K12 Talks. Kanav, thanks for your time on your
Yeah,
Sunday morning. And we're sorry you couldn't play football this
no
morning.
worries.
Hopefully, it wasn't because of this. But we,
No.
we really enjoyed spending time with you and hearing your journey. I think you got to
Yeah.
touch on a lot of different topics. You got to touch on the cultures of different academic systems and just in general what the cultures are like across India, Singapore, and the United States. You were able to bridge three different worlds for us. I think we also loved learning about the way in which you arrived at this empowerment of how coding can change your life and how you chose that over other things you were very good in. And then also I felt like this was a very interesting twist where you've actually worked as a professional game developer. And we've never had a professional game developer hosted on the show before. These kids, they make a lot of games in their curriculum because they love game development. So we actually built our whole curriculum around game development.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
you showed them that there is a whole business model here and a whole professional opportunity here as well. So thank you for inspiring all of us, and thank you for spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anshul, and it was great meeting all of you guys. It's just awesome to see. It's a field which I really like, which is coding and computer science, and it is great to see a lot of young folks now trying to do this at such an early age. And I'm like very excited to see what all of you guys will actually build maybe like 5-10 years from now. And you can start
Why not
right now
now? Why
itself.
not
Right
now?
now itself. Yeah.
I think right now itself, it's never too
Actually, the
early.
guy who asked me a question, if there's any game idea which you have, and I had a couple of game ideas also. So I made them and actually released it on App Store. And I got people to use it. It was for free, but I got people to use it. And it's very fun when people actually start using something which you have made. So you can start off right now itself.
Yep. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, see you for episode 13 next month. Everybody take care and give Kanav a round of applause, please. Proper Camp K12 round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Everybody have a good weekend.